Now, the Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been handed a historic third term as president. China's rubber stamp parliament, the National People's Congress, held the election, and there was no doubt what the result would be. Xi took the oath of office with his hand on the constitution that he himself revised, whereas his predecessors relinquished the presidency after 10 years. Xi tore up that rule book. He abolished term limits back in 2018. Now, the third term makes him modern China's longest-serving head of state. Now, as we said, the result of this vote was not a surprise. It was widely expected that Xi Jinping would get to serve a historic third term. I asked journalist Fabian Kretschmer in Beijing what this will mean for China.
Well, I mean, the result was kind of expected. It was obvious that he would get this term, but it was not necessarily obvious that he would get a 100% yes vote. I mean, there were among the 3,000 delegates, there was not one single one who abstained, for example. So this shows you how absolute he is in control. And while nowadays, of course, it's unimaginable to even think that Xi Jinping would have left his space and would bring a successor into play, I think just several years ago, it was the opposite was true. It was unimaginable that a Chinese ruler, would actually serve a third term, because the constitution made it clear after two term limits, it's over. Why? Because the party wanted to prevent the same fate happening again. Because Mao Zedong, when he was older, he dragged the country into chaos, and he had really an excessive personality cult. So that's why there were those restrictions, and Xi Jinping changed that clause, and he now serves as a historic for a historic third term. What does it mean? I think on the foreign policy front, there will be a harsh rhetoric against the West. The so-called wolf warrior rhetoric will continue. The ideological control within the country, I think, will also continue. Then domestically, for the economy, Xi Jinping will have to deal with a rising inequality. I think that's one of his priorities. He wants to improve the situation for the majority of the people who are not as privileged as the top 10%. And then I think he also wants to continue pursuing what he calls technological autonomy. He doesn't want to depend so much on foreign countries for critical core technology such as semiconductors.
OK, so you say that he got all the votes, but what about the Chinese people? I mean, what do they think about Xi serving a third term?
That's a complicated question. In my opinion, the Communist Party does everything it can to prevent the people from openly debating that. I mean, of course, if you criticize Xi Jinping very strongly in public, then that carries the risk of getting detained. And today, the big news was, of course, Xi Jinping's election. But when you clicked on Weibo, that's the leading online platform, and typed in the hashtag Xi Jinping elected as president, I mean, the top news with millions and millions of views, at some point shortly, there was a error message, basically a 404, saying we didn't find any relevant results. That goes to show that the censors apparently couldn't handle the situation and just blocked everything. And that doesn't say that he's not popular or popular. I mean, I would say still he has a solid approval rating, probably. But I mean, what sense does it make, this question, if you basically cannot really openly criticize him?
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Fabian Kretschmer reporting from Beijing. Thank you.